live for March 24th, 2024. Happy spring, everyone. I hope you're having a nice weekend and winter is far behind. I see Craig and Andrew and Jolyn in the chat. Welcome today. Welcome everyone else who's joining me live or watching the recording. If you're here live, drop a comment in the chat to say where you're watching from and let me know what you think about this week's updates. And I think one of the things that you guys will like this week are some updates from YouTube about AI content. There's updates from Threads and X and a brand new gig over at Yahoo. Yes, Yahoo for writers. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to talk about today is a big update from YouTube. Now, what YouTube is doing is requiring creators to label altered or synthetic content as altered or synthetic. Now, what does that mean, altered or synthetic? That definitely includes AI-generated content, but it is not limited to AI-generated content. And I think that's where some terms of service fail in some places, because if you specify, oh, this is about AI-generated content, it ignores that there are plenty of non-AI ways to make misleading content. And this does not include all content made with AI. There's some specificity in terms of what they want you to label. Are you using the likeness of a realistic person? Are you altering footage of real events or places? Or are you generating realistic scenes? So those are the basic types of content that need to be labeled. You can either label the content while you are uploading on desktop. And there's an option to say, is there altered content? And you just say yes or no. You can also go into YouTube Studio, look at the details, and select altered content as part of what's in your video. Note that YouTube is not requiring people to go back in time and label all their old content. You can definitely do that, but you don't need to. And there is a detailed Help Center article that talks about what exactly it is you need to disclose. There's a lot of examples, and I love examples because that gives a better idea of what they want you to do. So there's this table that says you do not need to disclose applying beauty filters. So if you have some filter that smooths out your skin or whatever, you don't need to disclose that. You don't need to disclose something like synthetically generating or extending a backdrop to simulate a moving car. You don't need to disclose that you're using effects to enhance your recorded audio. And here's the distinction. You do not need to disclose that you're using an AI-generated animation of a missile in a video. But if you're showing a realistic depiction of a missile fired towards a real city, you need to disclose that. So the distinction is, would people think that this might be real? If they might think it's real, you have to disclose it. So this is brand new. There's a whole bunch more examples you can see in the Help Center. if you want to learn more, click the link to my weekly newsletter. It's also on my blog, and you can get all the links, all the details. There's a link to the newsletter and blog in the description of the video. So just a note that what might happen when you do or don't label the content. And some people may be concerned that labeling the content is somehow going to make YouTube treat the content differently. That is not the case. It will not limit the video's audience, and it doesn't affect monetization. There are already, policies about what you can and cannot have on YouTube and what's advertiser friendly on YouTube. You still have to follow those policies, of course, but just because something is synthetic, that doesn't mean it's going to be affected. The other thing to note is if you use any tools to generate music or video or anything that are built into YouTube, and YouTube is working on these tools, it will be labeled automatically. So what happens if you don't disclose that you have this altered content? YouTube says when a content is undisclosed, in some cases, YouTube may take action to reduce the risk of harm to viewers by proactively applying a label that creators will not have the option to remove. And if you consistently choose not to disclose this information, there may be other penalties like having your channel removed from the YouTube Partner Program, having content removed, and so forth. So, YouTube and all of the big platforms are struggling with how to handle this synthetic content, not because it's a new thing. There's always been fake content. It's just that it's so easy to create right now. There's a whole flood of it. So I want to say hi again to everybody in the chat. And Andrew says, I knew it was coming eventually, just amazed it got released so early. And these things are unpredictable, but I think platforms need to get out ahead of the flood of this bad content, not only make clear what the policy is, require people to disclose the synthetic content, but also enforce it. And that's the big question mark here. How good is YouTube going to be at enforcing this? Because the kind of people who upload video with the intent to deceive are probably the ones who are not going to label their content. So will YouTube detect that? Will there be penalties? That's what we're going to see in the future. So really interesting times right now. Wanted to mention just a couple more small YouTube updates this week. And let me see that I have. There we go. There's an update to YouTube Studio. If you are looking at the detailed retention chart of video, so you can see, this is how long people watched your video. There's new metrics that you can use to break down that retention chart to compare subscribers and non-subscribers, new and returning viewers, organic and paid traffic. So that gives you a much better picture of how people are viewing your video, and you can see maybe, new viewers are only watching your video for a minute, but the returning viewers watch, 10 minutes or something like that. So this is a really useful metric for creators to understand how people are watching their videos. And breaking down these features is a good way to do that. So the next thing I wanted to mention is a test by YouTube that I think is actually potentially really useful. They are testing viewer-suggested corrections to automatically generated captions. This is on desktop. If you're viewing a video that has this enabled and they're just testing it, you can check to view click on the option to suggest caption corrections and view the transcript. And then there's like going to be a pencil icon and you'll suggest an edit. People can vote on the edits, thumbs up, thumbs down. Of course, like anything, people are sure to try and game this. I don't know how they're going to deal with this. Right now, creators will see the suggestions and they can accept them or not. In the long run, it will be interesting to see how that works. But a lot of times, the automatically generated captions have really glaring, obvious errors. And so kind of crowdsourcing corrections might be a good way to deal with that. The last thing I wanted to talk about for YouTube is this tweet from Todd B. Now, I did it because on Twitter, with my tweet, because it has some context. Todd B. is the product lead for YouTube homepage and recommendations. He is the one in charge of the algorithm. And I wanted to point out that he says very, very, very clearly, YouTubers, don't delete videos unless you have a very, very good reason. When you delete a video, you delete your channel's connection to the audience that watched that video. If you want to maximize your growth, keep your videos public, or if you must, you can change them to unlisted. Because what happens is if you delete the video or make it private, it is removed from people's history. That video, having watched that video, is no longer part of what YouTube uses to suggest new videos to this particular viewer who has seen your old video. So again, don't delete your old content if people are viewing it and you think people who viewed that old content would be interested in your new content. So those are the big updates from YouTube this week. I am just checking my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit to an update that surprised me considerably. Yahoo. Do any of you Yahoo? They are introducing Yahoo for Creators, a new publishing platform. It's launching in beta. This is part of Yahoo News. And what they want are people to contribute content to Yahoo News, specifically for lifestyle content. And I think this is an interesting play they're taking. I am trying to find here's the right tab. All right. What are the eligibility requirements for this? Now, this is specifically aimed at writers. And to be eligible for this program, you have to be in the US, over the age of 18. You need at least 1,000 followers on at least one eligible platform. That could be Medium, Substack, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube. So you could be a video creator. But you also have to demonstrate strong writing skills with regards to style, originality, and topical expertise. And your written content has to be in one of the target categories: fashion and beauty, fitness, home, humor, parenting, technology, travel, and wellness. So I think that covers a lot of people's content. This is not automatic. This is not like some of the sites had in the past where they let people just sign up and basically have a blog on the site. Here, you actually have to apply. You have to provide links to writing samples. You do need your own website to apply, in addition to having at least 1,000 social media followers on one of the particular platforms listed there. I think it's interesting that you can have your following, say, on YouTube, as long as you also have your own website where you do writing as well. If you do this, if you apply and you're approved, they are doing 50-50 ad revenue sharing. So that's pretty good, assuming that these articles actually get some traffic. I didn't realize that Yahoo News was still a thing, but I guess it is. So this is an interesting opportunity. Also, they say explicitly that the content does not have to be exclusive to Yahoo. So you don't need to make a decision between submitting content on Yahoo News and on your blog, especially for evergreen content. A lot of things like do-it-yourself content or beauty content, it's not news. So you could take older content and just repurpose it for this. I think it's a really interesting opportunity. So again, if you're a writer, this is something to consider. Some notes about the previous update. Craig says, don't fool with the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, you can fool with it. But I think the thing to remember is that YouTube is interested in connecting audiences with videos that they're interested in. So just remember it from that point of view. They are not trying to find an audience for your videos. They are having the audience and find videos for them. So it has to be audience centric. I will say that being audience centric, this brings me to another really quick update. The Google Search Liaison, this is aimed at search engine optimizers, SEOs. This week, he had to beg. He says, I'm begging, please, I'm begging you or anyone to stop focusing on specific content things. It's not whether a table of contents or saying someone is an expert is somehow a specific signal. It's that these things might indicate a pattern of doing too much to show Google things that's taking away from just being a good site for people, which is what Google wants to reward. So Google Search Liaison says, if you have a website and you want it to show up in search, just focus on making your site as good as you can for people who visit the site. So if your site warrants a table of contents on a web page, like it has a lot of content, do that. But don't implement things thinking that it's somehow just going to boost in the Google algorithm. Focus on what's good for viewers. And I think that's true on the YouTube side as well. Of course, it's all, easy to say, harder to do. But Google has been pretty consistent that they want you to create content, create websites, create videos that people want to see. Don't create it for them, create it for the people who are looking at it. So that's word to the wise today. Andrew says, do not be a Google fanboy on your independent site. I think it's slightly more than being a fanboy, because a lot of the SEOs who are doing this, I would say, are not Google fans. I think they kind of resent the fact that they have to think about what Google wants, and then they get frustrated because Google says, well, don't think about what we want, think about what visitors to your site want. It's a little complicated, and I think part of it is a lot of people who create sites, SEOs, they maybe don't really know what people visiting a site actually want. And sometimes it's harder to do than to say. So that's what Google says. The other big update this week is Threads joining the fediverse. And what does that mean? Now, Threads is Meta's Twitter-esque social media platform. Joining the fediverse means that you can post things on Threads. Someone who has an account on Mastodon or another ActivityPub platform, Lemmy is another one, which is kind of Reddit-like, they can follow you and interact with your posts. They don't need a Threads account. You don't need a Mastodon account. So the idea is that this allows you to just post on one platform, and then people on other platforms can both read it and engage with it. Ultimately, this should work in the other direction too. On Threads, you should be able to follow people who are on Mastodon, but that's not implemented yet. This is rolled out, I think, in the US, Canada, and Japan. And you can set this in your Threads settings. This is what Threads settings look like. You can see that I have fediverse sharing in beta turned on. And if I click it, this is my fediverse address. So if you want to follow me in the fediverse, check this out. This is how you can follow my Threads post from Mastodon, but there's a huge caveat here. The caveat is that not all Mastodon servers federate with Threads. And this is a feature on Mastodon that each server can decide what other servers it interacts with. Now, this particular page is from a site that's really against having Threads. So you can see that it lists a bunch of servers, Mastodon, Lemmy, a bunch of other platforms. And if it's federated with Threads, it's in red. If it's blocking Threads, it's a green with a check mark, so you can see what their point of view is. Unfortunately, the Mastodon server where I have my account, Mas2, does not federate with Threads. So I was hoping to turn on federation in my Threads account and then basically follow myself from Mastodon, but that doesn't work because the server I'm on blocks Threads. Should I make another account on a different server? I haven't decided that yet. So there's going to be some growing pains here, and I think it's not surprising that there are a lot of servers that are hesitant to interface with Meta. They don't trust Meta for good reason. So again, this is just rolling out now. We'll see what happens in the long term. There are a few other things I wanted to mention really quickly. So the first thing is on Threads, they now have trending. This trending is automatic, they say. This is only in the US, I believe. So they get the trends, and then they are reviewed by human editors to make sure that they are not bad and not redundant, and they make sense. They say these are not curated trends, though. These are real trends on the platform. And if you want to see, as I sit here, the current trends, happy Palm Sunday. Oh, today is Palm Sunday. Happy Palm Sunday to everyone who celebrates. Then there's trends about a bunch of people. I don't know who some of these people are. And also Chag Purim Samyach. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Happy Purim 2024. So it's not really super exciting, but that's where it is. Now, one of the things that is different about Threads and Instagram is that they don't recommend what they call political content automatically. Now, political content, it's not just about elections or politicians. It has to do with social things too, for example, civil rights, that sort of thing. You have to enable this in your settings, and you can do this on mobile. I couldn't figure out a way to even find the setting on desktop, but if you go into your Threads settings or your Instagram settings, you can go to find the, I think it's, I say this because I'm obviously confused, but there is a content filter option. You can choose to see sensitive content. You can choose to see political content. If you follow someone, you'll see their content no matter what it is. But if you're not following someone, the recommendations won't include political content unless you enable this. The thing that's really annoying, though, is that this setting applies to both Threads and Instagram. It's one setting. Now, for me, I use Instagram and Threads very differently. Instagram, I'm mostly interested in seeing pictures from friends and family, some local businesses, some nature things. I'm not interested in seeing political content there. Threads, I am interested in seeing political content, but there's only one setting. So I haven't decided whether to turn it on or off, but it's pretty annoying. Hopefully they'll split up the settings at some point. Another couple quick things. On Instagram, they are changing the way it works when you click on a hashtag. Currently, the way it works is if you click on a hashtag, you go to a dedicated hashtag page, which is like the top posts with this hashtag. It tends to be the same posts over and over because there's really popular things. Now, instead of it going to a hashtag page, it actually does a hashtag search. And that search then has filters, so you can see profiles, you can see reels, you can see posts. It shows you a lot more content. And you might consider that if you're on Instagram, this is a reason to have a hashtag in your profile, because then if people search for that hashtag, they click on that hashtag, they can actually find profiles with that hashtag. Shifting gears just a little bit, over on X, there's a new shelf in the For You stream. So if you're on X and you're looking at the For You feed, there's a new shelf that's pinned by people you follow. I don't know how this is determined algorithmically. It's obviously not going to show every single thing pinned by people you follow. This is from my feed. The top one is a post pinned by Jack. It's his first Twitter post from 2006. This is obviously not a fresh post, but it probably has a lot of engagement on it. So that's probably a factor. There's also a pinned post from Science Magazine, and I'm hoping that this shows freshly pinned posts by default. This, again, is good if you are on X and you have something really important that you really want people to see in their algorithmic feed. Try pinning it. I assume there's some sort of limitation that you can't just keep pinning things every hour and then take up the feed. It may limit, to changes every 48 hours or so, something like that. And so those are this week's updates. I'm going to leave you with something slightly disturbing. So this is kind of a disturbing trend on Facebook. 404 Media has a great report. Facebook's algorithm is boosting AI spam that links to AI-generated ad-laden click farms. Pretty much says it all right there. But the disturbing thing, I'm going to switch over to this report from Stanford's Internet Observatory, which is a more academic report of the same thing. But, when you're talking about popular content, Shrimp Jesus is apparently the kind of thing that's trending on Facebook. That is an AI-generated image of Jesus made from shrimps. It has 188,000 likes. They think that a lot of these likes are from real people. And if you engage with these AI-generated posts, you see a lot more AI-generated content in your feed. So you like one of these, or you comment on one of these, and you see a bunch more, even if it's on other topics. These are weird. They're clearly fake. I don't understand why people actually engage with them. But then the reason why this stuff is being posted is, of course, it gets a lot of engagement. And then they drop a link to their website that has malware, or it's just covered in ads. So they're generating revenue that way. Really weird. I think the lesson is don't engage with any post that you don't want to see more of. Even if you're posting to say that you hate it, Facebook is going to show you more weird stuff. So that's the updates for today. Happy Palm Sunday. And as Craig says, get the candy Easter eggs ready. Yes, indeed. Craig also says AI-generated content is often ugly. It is, but I feel like maybe that's part of the point, the kind of people who like the ugly, weird, surreal AI-generated content are going to like more of that. Thank you so much for joining me live today. I'm going over to Twitter, X right now, for our weekly chat. You might join me there. There's also going to be a poll on the eBoard YouTube channel that you can do. Again, have a great rest of your Sunday. Have a great week. I will see you next Sunday.